I'll just get your talking.
Hey, y'all got shushed.
I didn't hear it.
Women.
I was welcoming the visitors.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we talked about this this morning. Good job.
Okay, I'll come.
You must have been listening.
I'll help you.
All right, we're in Ephesians 5 again. We're going to look at 2 verses there this morning and then go further. Any people, situations we need to be mindful of in our prayers? No.
Deborah's having surgery Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, check your bulletins this morning. For the others. All right, as Alan says, somebody brave, read Ephesians 5, 31, 32. It's really not bad. Just anybody?
My mouth's full, but I'm getting there.
31 and 32.
Yeah, please.
For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church.
Okay, this is proof that Paul was a plagiarist. He copied this right up from Moses. Of course, it's, I think it's taken out of Genesis 2, 23, somewhere along there. And again, of course, we're talking about marriage and how to find a suitable mate. So anyway, Jewish tradition or Hebrew tradition was that the marriage thing was kind of a big deal. It was kind of a big party. There was big feast involved. I think it lasted several days usually. In fact, if you flip over to Matthew 25, where the parable of the 10 virgins is, that kind of sheds a little light on the situation that there was, a whole process that they went through, and the bridegroom made his grand entrance, and then they, had the wedding, and then after that followed with a long feast. Also in Matthew 22 and John 2, there's mention of those events, those type events. I want to touch on Matthew 22 just a second, and we'll chase a rabbit briefly. In fact, let's turn over there and look at it. Matthew 22.
Usually we bring up the rabbits, not the teacher, but that's a change.
Yeah, I got a little beagle blood in me.
It's getting ahead of us.
Chase stuff. Okay, anybody got a little subtitle there? Tells you what the first 14 verses or so are about?
Parable of the wedding feast.
The parable of the wedding feast. Okay, wedding feast, what we're talking about.
Marriage.
Marriage feast, okay. Somebody summarize what this is. We won't read the whole thing. What does Jesus tell us here?
Is this the one where he's inviting all the people in off the streets and none of the guests came, and so he invited everybody from everywhere. Just
Right.
go into people's houses, go into the roads, and find
Right,
people to
just
come.
anybody and everybody. Yeah. And then what happens at the end of the parable there?
Many are called, but few are chosen.
Okay. He says that kind of to wrap it up, and if you go back and look at the context of this is one of those times when he's kind of, verbally giving the Pharisees and Sadducees a good beat down. At the let's see, starts in verse 11. Says the king or the master of the feast there was looking over the dinner guests, and he saw a guy that wasn't dressed properly. So apparently there was a dress code for these type of events. And he says, hey, how'd you get in here without the proper clothes on? Right? And then has him drug out, got rid of. And that's when he says, many are called, few are chosen. What is the point of this parable?
Well, it is the kingdom of heaven is like parable.
Okay.
So there's some application to being in the kingdom.
Nice vague answer here. Right.
There are rules to attend a wedding feast. There are rules to get into the kingdom of heaven.
Okay,
You have to abide by those rules.
so you have to be prepared, shall we say? Is that right? Would that be a good way to say that? Because there was an expectation of certain attire at this thing, and apparently all the other people they drug in off the streets and stuff were able to prepare themselves to come to it, but this one guy wasn't. So, grand summary of the parable is get ready, right? You need to be ready. Is there any application for us today in preparing, obviously for heaven, but for worship?
So, another rabbit trail.
2 rabbits in one chase. Yeah.
So a lot of times in today's, call them telepreachers, they talk about come as you are, God wants you the way you are, however they state that. Come as you are is true, it's biblical, but it doesn't say stay as you are. You have to come, and once you're with Christ, you have to prepare from that point on.
Right.
That kind of applies in the marriage as well, where, when you meet somebody and you're young or not young or whatever, and you meet somebody and you start to get to know this person, you don't know everything about them. And we live in a society where it's normalized to, move in with them now so that you can figure out all the bad things before you get married. That's not the point. The point is that you grow together when you're already married.
That's a good point. But there is some preparation that needs to be done before the marriage that needs to take place. Now, let me explain what a rabbit is. A rabbit has nothing to do with the topic today.
Well, I'm sorry.
So shame on you for chasing another rabbit back into our topic. Okay? No, this
rabbit runs.
This is true. They circle. I wanted to hit on this one just for a second because this is kind of a sore point with me, particularly. We were at a place before where this passage was used to justify the elders establishing a dress code for the men, not just for everybody, but for the men that participated in leading on Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesday. And I point out Sunday, Sunday night, Wednesday because it was different at each times. Does anybody else get that from this passage? No, it's a parable. Okay, obviously it's talking about a dress code for an event. That's not the point though, right? Remember, parables are heavenly stories or earthly stories with heavenly meanings. So the meaning we need to look for is that heavenly meaning, not the very obvious earthly meaning necessarily, although there could be some application there. But that's not what this is about.
I mean, the only application with regards to clothing is put on Christ. Be clothed in Christ.
Thank you very much. Yes. In fact, there's James speaks specifically about overdressing or preferring people that are dressed better than others. And it's not in a positive way that he talks about it. So that whole concept of the deal was, we want you to wear a coat and tie on Sunday mornings if you lead singing, lead versus participate, distributing the Lord's Supper. We're still old-fashioned way back then with plates. And if you weren't in a coat and tie, you weren't properly prepared for worship. And they got it out of this passage. I'm like, no, that's not what this passage is about. This passage is about being ready for heaven. What's a coat and tie got to do with being ready for heaven? Nothing. So anyway, my point in talking about this is we need to be careful when we grab a passage out and try to give it a meaning, that it actually is the meaning that was intended when it was written.
I'll also say some commenters think that, like the parable of the prodigal son, when he came back, they had stuff ready for him, and they put him on him. Some places like this might have specific garments and things that you wear when you get into the wedding. So you came dressed sometimes however you were, whatever in this case. But it was also like the person hosting it, please accept this and come in. So either the person coming in said, no thanks, or had it on and took it off and was sitting around. And so the guy's like, didn't we give you this? So it also could be another understanding of like, you agreed or you completely disagreed. So now you slipped in. It's like, it's not how it works.
Right. Okay, so back on track. Rabbit's gone. The leaving and cleaving. Part of that whole tradition that the Hebrews had was after the parade and after the wedding, or in the process of that, somehow the groom would take the bride away from her mom and dad to his home. It was supposed to be kind of symbolic of the transfer of responsibility. I guess in some sense, in that culture, transfer of ownership, but that's a whole different thing. But it was all meant to point back to God's original intent, because obviously they went back to Genesis chapter 2, verse 23, and used that passage, leave and cleave, hold to this person that you're going with, that's taking responsibility for you. In the Old Testament, we see several places where parents, well, let me ask this first. Speaking of preparing, what role do parents play, or maybe should play, in the process leading up to a marriage of their children?
This is
Did I wait?
specifically in line with what man then has to take over, but your protection, providing for them, and trying to get them to heaven. And so you're guiding them physically and spiritually from that point.
Okay, so a parent's role is guiding them, and obviously with heaven in mind,
Yeah.
to get them. So how do you do that? I mean, several of us have children. How is that going to work when the time comes for your kids to find a spouse? What's your role?
Murder all the little boys that come knocking. I mean, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, meet them at the door with a shotgun. You know. Good thing to go ahead and do is buy a backhoe, a couple of acres, wilderness preferably. So seriously, what's the role for a parent to do that? You know, some countries still today, and to some degree in the Old Testament, it was arranged marriages. You think about Isaac and Rebekah, right? He didn't choose her; she was chosen for him, and seems to have been fine with that.
Well, and what's interesting is the statistics say that those that have arranged marriages have less divorce than we do in the United States.
Mm-hmm. So divorce rate in the U.S. is what, roughly, right now?
40 to 50%.
Yeah, around 50%. It's basically a coin toss, right? That's what that makes. So is that a signal that we're doing a good job in preparing our children for this big step?
I think that's why arranged marriages kind of works, because both families have interest in the marriage to make the relative work.
Did anybody here that's willing to talk about it, did your parents have a direct hand in your picking the person that you married? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you happy about that? Or?
Well, I mean, she.
He's not listening.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, she met him at a wedding or at a wedding rehearsal before I did. So she was like, "Hey," and he's like, "You know, he's a Christian." He goes, because at the time I was in high school, so you know, I wasn't
Yeah.
too worried about it. But she's like, "You may like him," and of course I did.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Evidence, yeah.
She knew that he came from a good family, like he, you know, had the same values as a Christian, you know.
Right.
Like she knew all that, so she's like, "Hey, maybe take a chance and try."
So
to
some
talk to him."
communication there, drop
Yeah.
some hints, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Communication is big. And you kind of touched on it already, Austin, that leading up to that time, there needs to be some teaching going on, right?
I feel Braylon would do the exact opposite.
Yes.
If I would have said, "Look at this guy, he's cute," she would be
Well, I was
other
hesitant.
direction.
I mean, I was hesitant
Yeah.
at first, but then it's like, okay, I'll get,
Yeah.
I'll
She'd
try.
be like, "Mom, I know who you married."
You don't know what you're talking about.
I can speak a little bit about ours since my husband's not in here. I can talk about it.
Yeah, go for it.
So Tamel and I first discussed getting married before he ever asked.
Mhm.
And so his response to me was, "I guess I need to get my family to talk to your family." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You know, my family, you know, the men in my family will need to talk to the men in your family." And I'm like, again, what are you talking about? And so in Botswana, it is still very custom for a bride price.
Yeah.
And to have that conversation to make sure, you know, your family understands you are now going to take care of her, that type thing. You know, and I jokingly say my father will pay you to take me. You know, like, and it was very much his parents struggled a lot with not paying for me.
Yeah.
Of course, over there it's usually in cattle, but
Which right now would be.
yeah.
It's
Well,
hard to get
Well,
from Africa to the US.
but
You
he,
fly over there and you can come back.
yeah. So
Cheaper.
we negotiated with his parents and was like, okay, well, can the bride price be you paying to come over here for our wedding over here? And which they did. And then they struggled with the customary having a wedding, a traditional African wedding. So that's why a year later we went back over there. I think that we went over there. I don't know if I first went over there, but and had a traditional African wedding. And over there, it is a couple week time thing. Like you usually have a wedding on the bride side, and then there's another wedding with the groom side. But they took all my luggage, and it's very customary, like the bridal party and things. All the gifts we got, because I didn't have a whole lot over there, which is what I brought to Africa. But they bring it in and they dump it in the lawn of his family, and it's like, she is yours now. You are to take care. But and you know, Americans, we struggle with that, the possessiveness of it. But it is more of like, she's your responsibility, and they're trusting you to take care of her.
Right.
So my acting parents over there is their family friend that. So Tamella's father and this man is the one who established the church in Tamella's home village, and family grew up together and stuff. That's the man who got Tamela at MSOP. But so that was my acting parents over there, and they owned a like hostel type thing. Like it was like a bed. I won't say bed and breakfast, but like a hotel, but not like a hotel. Think African hotel. But nice, it had a shower. It had a shower. It didn't just have a tub, it had a shower. I was loving it. But so the night we got married, or had our wedding over there. We were already married, but we had our wedding over there. His parents really struggled because we were staying in that little hotel.
Right.
And his parents was like, no, she cannot go back to them. She is ours now to take care of. She can't go stay. And Tamella's like, no, we're going to stay over here. Like it's like we've been married for over a year. Like this is not.
Yeah.
But his parents really struggled with like, no, she's ours to protect, and
Right.
not she
She took
should
it very seriously.
very seriously. And so some other countries really do it better than how we do. But like I said, a lot of Americans struggle with the idea of I'm now his possession. At that. While it's not really like a possession, it's more of like a protector type thing, and how they think of it. But a lot of women struggle with that here.
Well, and that's really a recent thing, even in our history, because our culture is to that point now. You go back a ways, there was a lot more parental involvement in the marriages, partly because it hadn't been that long ago, maybe a little over 100 years ago. You're looking at generational homes where you had the grandparents, the parents, and the children. They're all married. You know, they've all got their little families, but they live in the same building, same home.
I picked my beautiful wife up at Walmart.
Do what?
I picked up my wife at Walmart.
Was she on sale? Price dropped? Yeah.
This wasn't all year long.
Hey, London, which arm was it?
So a lot of U.S. marriages are marriages of rebellion against parents.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I know with our relationship, our parents had very little to say about any of it. But we didn't involve. We didn't see any point. I mean, not that they didn't know what they were talking about or anything. They just didn't care whether they knew it or not. Honestly.
My dad didn't like it, but if it was up to him, I would be married now, so.
Yeah, he and I talked about that a lot. We're not.
I would never got married.
Jury's still out a little bit. You know?
They're starting to like him, it's okay.
Yeah.
The fact that you had two of his kids now, so a little bit of it.
Yeah. So Do y'all want to say that?
No.
Do I need to say anything else? No.
You didn't have necessarily input on who I wanted to marry,
Right.
but I was respectful of your parent perspective and wanted your approval of them.
Are y'all not gonna talk about what you made me do?
I gave you the chance, man.
We're really not gonna bring that up? All right.
I want to hear it.
I
I need to know now.
What'd you have to
Okay,
her?
so,
One of the problems though is because all of our parents have been divorced, right? Like divorce is such a prevalent
right.
that marriages don't even really have a,
And again, that's a fairly new thing,
yeah.
you know, relative to, you know, history. It didn't used to be that way. There were divorces, sure, but I mean, it was frowned upon big time. And
It's relatively new in history to think about falling in love and then getting married, as
Yes.
opposed to choosing to partner and then choosing to love and grow. Like that's a new, really
Right.
new thing in human history.
yeah. Anyway, back to Alan. Where to start? Okay, I mentioned already that Michelle and I have 5 children. 3 girls, 2 boys. The girls are the older ones, the boys are the younger ones. And we've been involved in their selection, the ones that are married, their selection of spouses to varying degrees. And I'll just talk about the 2 that were the most similar. How about that? Prior to them getting married, prior to them being old enough to even talk about dating or anything, we had already discussed. Remember we talked about intentionality last Sunday? Y'all remember that? We kept saying you got to do things with intention. Okay, this was one of those things. And this is mostly Michelle's doing. She thinks about things more than I do. I already mentioned that in class. Okay. We did some research and developed man, you missed it, man. You gotta go back and watch the video. Anyway, we developed a list of requirements, shall we say, for considering a person to be your spouse. And we tried to teach the kids, the girls primarily, you know, because because they're the ones that I'm more focused on, is Kelsey and Morgan. We'll just go ahead and call it out. This is what you need to look for. You need to look for somebody that's a Christian. Okay. Now, is that 100% guarantee that everything's going to be okie dokie? No, it is not. But that can, if you do that, and if that's not the case in your situation, I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. Okay. Michelle and I, neither one were Christians when we got married. So it's not an absolute thing, but ideally, you want somebody that's a Christian that shares your belief, your religious beliefs. And that would be true if we weren't Christians, if we were some other type of religion. If you're looking for a spouse, you need somebody that shares those beliefs, because it eliminates a big point of disagreement that can become an even bigger problem down the road. And so you look for somebody not only religiously, but morally. Somebody that shares your morals, somebody that you're attracted to. You know, the physical thing, we like to say, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Okay, we're going to be honest about it. There is a degree of that where it matters. And again, everybody's got different tastes. You know, there's no absolute for that. So anyway, in that process, we try to be involved with them making these decisions as time passed. One suitor comes, wants to date Kelsey. Okay, we'll talk about that. Yeah, we will. We will sit down and talk about that for 3 to 4 hours. Just you and me. In my office with the meat cleaver hung on the wall and the machete and the various animals that I have, you know, and put on the wall. Okay, we'll talk about this. And that's what we did. And it was more than just one guy. There were a couple of guys that showed him. Well, that first one, nope, he couldn't survive the process. Second one, nope, couldn't survive the process. Third one is like, are you kidding me? And it's like, and I'm sure there may have been some other boys that were interested that once they knew how this process was going to go, they're like, I'm good. I'll move to the next girl. I know if it was me when I was that age, I passed, dude. She's not that cute. Okay. I'm not talking about her. Nobody else. Okay. So it worked really well once and didn't work too well the other time. That will process. Because again, things aren't absolute. You can say this is ideal. So we sit down and we talk about all kinds of things. Are you a Christian? When did you become a Christian? Why did you become a Christian? Have you been sexually active prior to this relationship? Well, first of all, are you now? And then you're dead, so we don't have to. But no, I mean, have you got a porn problem? Have you been exposed to pornography? All that's the kind of stuff that's on a 4-page questionnaire. Right?
Did you get that notarized?
I still have it.
We still have a copy of it if you want it. Okay. All right. Y'all are probably like most people we told that to.
Kudos to you.
Did you pass?
Look,
I never got the sheet back. I don't know. I have no idea.
there's no dirt on his head. Because one of the things I told him is, look, I've got a backhoe and I've got access to 600 acres of wilderness.
I'll say though,
Never find you.
I didn't bring anybody to y'all until I knew they could pass.
There you go. Okay, so, and you know, Morgan knew ahead of time that this was the process. In fact, I think Alan actually asked her to go get a cup of coffee or something. It's like, well, you got to talk to my dad first.
Right. That was rough.
Yeah. And to his credit, he was man enough to come down by himself. She didn't even come with him.
She was living out of state.
Yeah, they were in Knoxville. And he came by himself. And not only did he come for the 3 to 4 hour discussion with me, he spent the weekend with us. I mean, that alone shows some character. Please don't tell him I'm saying this.
It's something. It might not be character.
So we got like a C minus.
Yeah, C pass.
D plus.
What's your word?
As the girls,
What's your word?
well, it was mainly Kelsey because you waited. But when they're younger, there's more of it's almost like, no, he's not good. But as they get older, they're taking more and more responsibility for their own decisions.
Yeah.
And they're listening to your input and you hope they will do the right thing.
Yes. This was not a you're going to do it this way thing.
Well, it was
Yeah.
there was a
Well-
time, yeah.
Well, I mean, but when the time came,
Yes.
this wasn't Morgan, you have to do it this way.
Oh, so
She
I
could-
was 18. Some people would have been like, no, I'm an adult. You don't have to tell me what to do. I saw it go bad with my sister's boyfriend and husband, and I wanted y'all to have a good relationship with whoever I was with.
Right.
And with me, I wasn't going to just be like, no, I'm not listening to you. You know, like I respected you and I wanted you to respect whoever I married to.
Right.
So I chose to submit to my parents and, you know, let y'all have
And-
input.
Really, the way I took it when you approached us with this thing was just that. I want some advice.
Yeah.
You weren't letting us make the choice.
Right.
And that, I think that worked well. It worked out well.
And at that point, really, when you're talking to them, like with the girl 16 years old, she went, and it's like, whoa, you're able to tell her no, and she take care of it no, because she sees it. But so, like with Morgan, it was almost like information gathering too,
Yeah.
because even though they talked about, I don't know what they talked about, but something might get fleshed out in talking with you that's serious, that she would need to know, like exposure to porn, that he's probably not volunteering that, not Alan, but the guy is probably not volunteering. So it's helping them make the best decision possible.
And with that in mind, lying is always on the table. Okay.
Yes.
Have you
I
been
was
exposed to porn?
I mean,
Do
he
you
could have
have
just said no to any of
Yeah.
those questions
Do
and
you-
moved on the test.
I think the strength of that the strength of that process, and I told Alan this too when we started, it's like, some of these questions are embarrassing for me to ask. I know they are for you to answer, okay? But it's gonna stay right here unless it's something that Morgan needs to know. There were candidates who lied about stuff. Some of it was very obvious because some of the stuff, you know how they do these questions where they'll ask you the same thing different ways. If you don't answer it the same, something's up. Some of that was taken care of in this process. And we didn't just develop this whole thing. Michelle found most of this somewhere else, and we kind of made it ours, so to speak, so that we could implement it. My whole point in that is, I'm not saying you have to do it that way, right? But I will say this, if you want a better chance of things working out well, you might want to consider it. Because it's better than coin toss.
One of those guys that asked for Kelsey, he went on to murder both of his parents. So if we had not been involved, when she's at a stage where she's trying to make a good decision, he's showing a lot of interest, and then
I had not thought about that until she just reminded me.
he was a member of the church.
That is the case. He was a member of the church, had grown up in a good, we knew his parents. We knew him well, and you know who we're talking about. And yeah, killed both his parents in their home. But he sat on our couch and was wanting to talk to us about dating our daughter. Now, she wasn't interested, I don't think.
I think it helped her know she needed to listen to her gut.
Yeah, but my point in all this is, you are their parent, okay? Especially if they're below 18. This falls on you. In fact, your dad and I had this discussion years and years ago, and I'm surprised he still talks to me. but yeah, we had a discussion along these lines about somebody was wanting to date you or something. I'm like, oh. And he's like, well, that's her. No, it ain't her decision. She's yours.
Yeah, I know that was.
But maybe that's my feeling of it. These are my children. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get them to a point where they can go to heaven. And I'm not letting some little turkey come in there. And I almost use a different word that Michelle would slap me for, but he's not gonna come in there and blow that up if I can help it. Okay. So I think that's where we should fall as parents, as Christian parents especially. These are our kids. They got to go to heaven. What does it take to get them there? Well, I can tell you for a fact, it takes a lot and it hurts a lot of time. But there's also a lot of joy involved in it, or otherwise we wouldn't even have kids, right? But so anyway, that's our, I think, should be our role. I think it's biblically speaking we can see that too in the places where parents were involved in a good way, because sometimes it's not good. Is that we teach the kids what to look for. What are you looking for in a spouse? Somebody, number one, somebody that can help me get to heaven. Okay, that's the first thing. And if that's a no, then really the rest of it doesn't matter. But we don't do that in our society, do we? It's like what you were talking about. We don't want our parents sticking their nose in our business because we're Americans, right? We do what we want to. I mean, that's really what it is. We don't say it like that. That's what it is. We don't want to be told what to do. Again, as parents, though, you've got to stick your nose in there. You have to. You're going to be held, as elders, are we going to be held responsible for what happens in this congregation?
Yes.
What about in your home?
Yes.
Who's the head? It's the dude. Christian or not, he's still responsible. You gonna take it seriously? You willing to just leave heaven or hell up to chance? To a coin toss, a 50-50 chance? I'm not. I hope y'all aren't either. So, especially, I know I'm the old dude, I'm the boomer, as Alan likes to call me, which I actually am a borderline boomer. I try not to admit that, but do this right. I mean, make every effort to do it. And you can't control them. Once the kids are adults, they're just going to do what they're going to do.
So how do you chase one off?
Oh, that's easy.
I was talking about it.
Oh, you mean one that's already made it? That's not so easy. I mean, it is easy, but there's legal problems that come with it.
Yeah, he used to send Bailey on dates with me periodically. He would be like, "Oh, you can just go with you. We'll just go with you. It's fine."
Was that while he was cleaning his gun? Yeah, it's okay, go ahead. Yeah, I'll be right here when you get up.
So did you do the same process for your boys?
No, they had it was available to them. But I mean, and Samuel is still single, so.
Yeah.
But we're looking for candidates and we don't mind giving hints.
But it does have to be a different process at some level, doesn't it? Because like
It
the
does.
language of scripture is that a man takes a wife, but a woman is given in marriage.
Right.
Right, and so I think that hints at, yeah, you can argue some of that's the cultural possession type stuff, but I think that hints too at the difference between a man.
Yeah, there's a difference. And even if well, I guess on some level we were involved with Mac. Because Michelle did have a discussion with it. Not as formal as ours were, as the guys.
He already lived,
You know, you loved it.
he already lived out of town, and they were worshiping at the same congregation, and they were already a couple at that point. He grew up super fast.
Now,
But Samuel, he is very good to communicate with us, but he really asks our advice. I think communication, I think of London, last time he said that last week. Communication with your children, having a relationship where they can come to you and where you can share your thoughts
Right.
is important too.
It's hard to know where that line is of where you've gone too far sometimes.
And you will cross it.
Yeah, you'll cross it.
You will cross it.
But
If you don't, you're not doing your job.
and then it's how you handle it.
That's right.
What do you do after that? You know, it's okay to tell your kids you were wrong.
That's right.
You need to know that. If you don't know that, you need to know that, and you need to practice that regularly. Because I mean, I know I did. They've got to see that in you. They've got to see in you how to handle situations, not just in a marriage situation. Hopefully, they're watching you as husband and wife and saying, "Yeah, they love each other sometimes, but they love each other. I know they love each other. There's no question in my mind that they are committed and love one another, and they are faithful to the end." No matter.
Samuel not long ago had met this girl. He was very interested in her. He said, "I want to bring her home for the weekend, and I'd like for you to talk to her." So it's more of an informal talk, but I'm a good investigator anyway. But so it's similar but different, and really even with the girls, no two children, and the relationship's different because each person's different.
So yeah, to answer your question, to a lesser degree with Mac so far, and with Samuel ongoing, you know, we wanted to build that relationship where we could talk to each other, where we could give advice. Now whether they take it or not, it's up to them. But you've got to do, as a parent, you've got to do what you can do, even if it's not comfortable. Okay.
On her last note, the lady says she's not getting married. She doesn't want children. And if you ask her why she doesn't want children, she says, because you have to clean up after them.
Can't argue with that one.
I need to record her, so on her wedding day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so anything else on that preparing for the marriage, or, you know, seeking out that spouse? Anybody else want to kick in something? I know some of you are thinking you're older than that's fine. You're not the first.
You'll be there soon enough.
Yeah, that's right. They get back with me in a few years. Okay, so the latter part of that verse 31, let me get back there. Okay, well, let's say this first before we do the latter part of it. The first part of it, the leave and cleave thing. When you get married, you're married to your spouse, not to her or his mama, and not to her or his daddy. Okay? Yes, there is a relationship there that needs to be a good one if possible, but that's not who you're married to. Mom-in-law does not tell you how to run your house, nor does father-in-law. Okay? Nor does mama or daddy. they need to be out of the picture. And if they're not out of the picture, you need to get away from them further. You're not far enough away. Move, get another job. Please do yourself a favor, okay? Now, I don't know that we would have ever had a problem like that. We'd have probably had other problems if we'd just stayed in our hometown. But we moved away. A month after we got married, we moved to Memphis. It was 4 hours back then from our home. So it was me and her. We didn't know anybody up there other than the people we worked with. And we didn't have any relatives, coming and going and sticking their nose in, being good or bad influences. It was up to us to learn to live with each other. And that's kind of what this verse is saying. You don't have to be that extreme with it, but you need to have some boundaries, and everybody needs to know where those boundaries are. Now, the latter part of that, what does it mean, the two shall be joined, or let's see, he shall leave his father and mother and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. What's it talking about? It's okay, wear doves. There's a couple of possibilities, actually, but maybe at least 3, I guess. Nobody? Y'all are married, right? Some of y'all? Yeah.
The one I go with is
Wait, the woman you go with, or the answer?
the
Okay.
answer. And that the one flesh is more leaning towards acting as one and in unity.
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it with that. That's a good, I think that's the proper view of it. It of course, it involves intercourse, that process of becoming one flesh, but it's more than that. It's that unit, that becoming one to in every respect of life, emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever other way you can think about. Thank you, Rod.
But
Okay,
you
so
can't ignore the fact that it doesn't just say the two become one. It is specific to say the
Yes.
two become one flesh.
yes,
But that also can pertain to in this physical life.
right. In some,
Because they're not given it,
yeah, in some sense, talking to you is the same as talking to her. One represents the other in the flesh, so to speak. But yeah, obviously the sexual act is involved in what's considered here too.
Well, verse 29 says, like, no one hates his own flesh, so it's talking about being one before it gets there.
Right.
So that you're one person.
Right. Okay. Anything else? We got 2/3 of the lesson done.
One thing I wanted to comment on that we talked about earlier about, like Megan was saying, about taking possession over a woman and whatever. We still symbolize that in our marriages today, where the man will bring the daughter forward if able, and he will give away, her mother and I give away our daughter to you. Right? Kind of symbolically, we're doing the same thing, where she's yours now.
You're responsible for. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. We ain't coming back together.
Right. All right, let's pray and we'll begin. Father, we thank you for loving us. Thank you for giving us all that we need to live well in this life. We are grateful for the time we had together this morning to discuss marriage, and we hope, Father, the things we've said and done were pleasing to you and beneficial to us. Please be with those who mentioned that are sick and hurting, bless them in their needs. In Christ's name, amen. Thanks, guys.